We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, self-existent cause. That one manifests itself in, through, and as all of creation, but it's not absorbed by its creation. And the manifest universe is the body of the living Spirit. The manifest universe is the body of God. Everything that we see is God incarnate. Everything that we are is God incarnate. There is no separation between us and that eternal universal spirit, that one presence, that one power. It is in, through, and as us. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, called it lots of different things. He called it the thing itself in the first chapter of The Science of Mind. So that's the title today for my talk, The Thing Itself. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what spirit is in our belief system and how this belief system has transcended lots of different religions and cultures and so forth. Sorry, second. Coming loose here. So we are part of what's called a panentheistic philosophy. Panentheism is a belief that God is in everything, but God is so much more than one single thing. That every creation is a part of it, but yet it is so much more than any one single thing could possibly be. This is a form of philosophy that has been around for ages and ages and ages. Many of the Greek philosophers practiced panentheism in their writings that they brought forth thousands of years ago. Ernest Holmes studied lots and lots of different wisdom leaders throughout the years, throughout the entire world, across all religions, across time. He was very eclectic in his pursuit of knowledge about this thing itself. And so one of the people that he studied was Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Ralph Waldo Emerson was part of the Transcendentalists. And the Transcendentalists had 5 basic premises to their belief system. And these basic premises are also a reflection of panentheism. So everything is a reflection of God. The physical world is a doorway to the spiritual world. People can use intuition to see God in nature and in their souls. A person is their own best authority. This was very controversial in the day, by the way. And the feeling and intuitions are superior to reason and intellect. Another controversial idea at the time. So our founder, Ernest Holmes, studied Emerson. He found Emerson when he was 20 years old, and he picked up a book while he was visiting his older brother who was home from college. And he said it was like drinking water. It quenched his thirst for knowing so much that it was like drinking fresh water. So he studied Ralph Waldo Emerson early on, and then he moved to California, and he found the writings of a man named Judge Thomas Troward. And Thomas Troward was born in India to English parents, and he then went back to England, got his education, came back, and was a judge in India for over 40 years. And when he retired he went back to England when he retired, and began writing about these metaphysical ideas. Metaphysical meaning that which is beyond the physical, that which is beyond what we can see. And he began writing it and began speaking all over England at the time. And Ernest found his work and was so moved by it. Ernest actually says that 25% of the science of mind is from Troward's work, 25% of it. And then later on, he found a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins. Emma Curtis Hopkins was a student of Mary Baker Eddy, who founded Christian Science. But she and Mary Baker Eddy had a bit of a falling out, and she moved to Chicago and set up her own School of Metaphysics, she called it, the Emma Curtis Hopkins School of Metaphysics. And there she trained many wisdom leaders of today. We belong to a movement called New Thought, and New Thought has several different individual religions in there. There's religious science, Centers for Spiritual Living, and then there's one called Divine Science, which was founded by Nona Brooks, And then there's Unity, which was founded by the Fillmores, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. Irma Curtis Hopkins trained all of those people. She's called the teacher of teachers. Her work was very, very simple, a very simplistic approach to having a relationship with God. She didn't call God God, she called it good. There's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it, and it uses you. That's where that comes from. Emma Curtis Hopkins called this divine presence good because that's how she understood it. It was good in every way, and that we could have a personal relationship with it. So those three writers are the root of Science of Mind. And so then Ernest Holmes put it all together into what we call our textbook. This is the latest edition. If you're looking for it on Amazon, it's a bright yellow color cover on there. There's lots of editions of it. I was just actually counting through mine. I have 7 different editions, including one in Spanish, which I'm working on reading. So Science of Mind was originally written in 1926, and then in 1938, Ernest Holmes was moved to revise it. He revised it mainly because there were things that he had in the previous edition that he couldn't prove. And he was about, if I can't prove it, I'm not going to say it. It has to be something that's real in my life. And so he revised the book, and he wrote those first 4 chapters as the introduction to the Science of Mind, which is what the focus of this month's talks are on. So the Science of Mind, in its simplest meaning, is a metaphysical teaching. It's the study of life and the nature of law. In other words, the principles, how things work. It's governed and directed by thought. It's always conscious that we live in this spiritual universe, and that God is in, through, around, and for us at all times. And that's the basis of Science of Mind. We believe in this universal presence that is part of who we are, that there is no separation between it and us, that we are one with everything that is around us, that at our divine essence, we are all the same. We show up beautifully and uniquely as each one of us individually, but the truth of who we are is that we are a child of the One, that it is imbued inside of us, and that we are living its life. It is moving through us, showing up as us in everything that we are and everything that we do. And if we actually could get to a point where we believed that every single moment of the day, imagine how our interactions with others would be. If I could remember that that person in front of me that's giving me some kind of grief is a child of God, what a difference my experience is going to be in that interaction. If I can show up somewhere and be angry and remember, wait a second, this is God expressing here. Would this be how God did it? I might shift how I react to things in the world. Imagine a world where everyone remembered the perfection that they are right then and right now. So Ernest writes in the Science of Mind textbook this. He says, the study of the science of mind is a study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. Now you notice there's lots of words in there that are capitalized. Those are names for God. Every time Ernest uses a name for God, for the divine, for spirit, for the universe, he capitalized it. He liked a lot of different names. In fact, in the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook, there are 88 names for God. 88 different ways that he referred to spirit, that divine essence. Some of them are rather lengthy. You can barely see that one at the bottom. The intelligence from which everything comes. What a name that is for spirit. He used them all interchangeably because everything to Ernest was God. And God showed up in every single form there was. Not only did he use lots of different names for God, but he put things in simple terms. He believed that Science of Mind was about teaching us to overcome conditions in our lives, overcome the problems that we seem to have, and use this very practical, very simplistic philosophy to move through our challenges. He writes this: "We see abundance in the universe. We cannot count the grains of sand on a single beach. The earth contains untold riches, and the very air is vibrant with power. Why, then, are so many people weak, poor, and afraid?" The science of mind deals with these questions. We live in an abundant universe. We live in a universe that has enough of everything to supply all of our needs all of the time. I was looking up some numbers for this, and the one that struck me more than anything else is about the plants and animal life that we have here on the earth. So right now there are 1.2 billion identified species of animals. But scientists estimate that there are 8.7 billion they have not yet identified. Imagine that. There are only about 400 different species of plants. But scientists now estimate that for every single person that is currently on this earth, and we're talking about over 7 billion, right? For every single person on this earth, there are 400 trees. 400 trees for every single person. And that's just the biggest of the plants. Can you imagine what the rest of it would be? We live in an abundant universe. Everything we could ever want is right here for us. So why aren't we achieving that? That's what the science of mind deals with, is moving through questions like that and getting to the root of what is our belief that is stopping us from experiencing it. Because if this is true, then there should be no reason at all that we don't experience that in our lives. We often talk about peeling the onion, because we are this complex being that has layers upon layers upon layers of things added to us. And all spiritual growth is about removing those things that we don't serve us anymore. Peeling away the layers of the onion so that we can get to the core of who we are, to that sweet center of who we are. This is my favorite quote from The Science of Mind. It's in the 3rd paragraph of the opening page of the book. He says, "The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul, and all instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law." Remember, law is the principles. "Thus, our inherent nature is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom." Our inherent nature is always seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We would do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, a love beyond our fondest dreams, and a freedom for which the soul craves. Can you imagine living your life from that point of view? Knowing that we are eternally free and that everything is provided through our conscious connection with that thing itself. Ernest goes on to say that the science of mind is about learning how to think, because thoughts create our experience. The thoughts that we have around things are what add to those layers of the onion. The belief system that we have been raised in, the experiences that we've had throughout our lives, many of them traumatic, that have added to this, to creating our belief about the world and our place in it. But if we can learn how to think correctly, then we can begin to eliminate some of those conditions. He says to learn how to think is to learn how to live. For our thoughts go through a medium that is infinite in its ability to do and be. Anyone, by thinking, can bring into their experience whatsoever they desire. Now, you may have heard of something called The Secret, a movie that was out about 15 years ago, a book. They put a very simplistic twist to this idea. Our thoughts are creative. Here's the kicker. All of our thoughts are creative. But they are created to the extent that we buy into them, that we believe them. So I can be driving along in the car and have that random thought go through my head. When somebody does something erratic, I think, oh, I hope I'm not in an accident. Does that mean I'm going to be in an accident because I'm thinking about it? No, because there's not a lot of belief back of that. It's just a random thought that my egoic brain sends into my consciousness, and I can buy into it and create that accident, or I can just say, no, that's not who I am today. That's not what's going to be my experience today. So it's done unto us as we believe. The thoughts that we have are powered by the belief system that we have. So our job is always to clear up our belief system. Or some people might say, clear up our BS. All thoughts are creative, but it's about more than just repeating affirmations, which was one of the things that the movie The Secret asked us to do. I can repeat over and over and over to myself, I have $1 million in the bank. And it's done unto me as I believe. I don't believe it, so I don't experience it. If I get to a place where I want to change a condition in my life, then I get very clear about what it is I actually believe and begin to shift that. So when I started here at Centers for Spiritual Living, I was having some financial difficulty. I did not start with, I have $1 million in the bank, because I could never believe it. I started with, I pay my bills on time. And guess what? Pretty soon I paid my bills on time. So then I expanded that, because I could believe that, and I could prove it, and I did it. So then I expanded it out. I pay my bills on time, and I have money left over. Pretty soon, that was my experience. And then I expanded it even further from that. I was a science teacher for many years, and so I like to experiment. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if I can make this work. And so I said, I pay my bills on time. I have money left over to support the causes I believe in. And then I began to donate. I donated time, I donated talent, and I donated my financial contributions as well. And things really opened up for me. Because now, not only did I prove that I could do this, prove that I could pay my bills on time and have money left over, I was actually believing that this was my experience. And things just opened up for me like crazy. Once I started to actually take my belief system, refine it to a thing that I could actually buy into and make it work in my life. Prove it. Prove it to yourself. Find the thing that's challenging you in your life. And what is the simplest thing you can believe about it right now? What is the simplest thing you can believe about it? And then expand upon it as you have success in believing that. Ernest says, no matter what our emotional storm or objective situation may be, there is always something hidden in the inner being that has never been violated. That's our opportunity. In my inner being is that idea that I live in a world of abundance. It was buried deep for me for a long time. And it took me working through some things to get that to be my experience. So find what is hidden deep in your inner being that has never been violated. In other words, what is that hidden truth? We may stumble, but there will always be that eternal voice forever whispering in our ear, that thing which causes the eternal quest, that thing which forever and ever sings. What a beautiful way of saying it. There is an inner voice whispering to us all the time. We have a chattering mind that's talking to us all the time also. But if we can get still enough and hear that inner voice, it speaks of a world that is absolutely wonderful. A world that is filled with abundance, where pain and suffering are no longer our experience. When we can get to that point in our experience, wow, things really begin to shift. Our soul will never change or violate its own nature, and all of the denying that will never change it. All of the affirming of it will never make it any more than it is. But since it is what it is and it works the way that it works, it appears to us through our beliefs. It is done unto us as we believe. As we believe. As we develop our belief in the thing itself. As we have experiences that validate our belief in the thing itself, then our experience of life shifts. There are lots of different practices that we can do on a daily basis to help us. We learn to quiet ourselves through meditation and to listen to that still small voice that forever sings and sings. We learn to commune with Spirit through a form of prayer. Now, it's not the prayer that I was taught as a young child, which is, "Oh, please, God, help me." It is a prayer that actually affirms these truths. It affirms my relationship with Spirit. It affirms who I am and my place in this world. And it affirms those laws, those spiritual truths that we've spoken about, in a way that lets us move through those conditions in a way that brings about that ultimate freedom. It's always available to us. And as we do these practices, these and so many others, we get clarity about what's happening for us. We get a sense of what is the truth about this situation based on what I am believing. Am I believing that suffering is part of life? Or am I believing that there is this power for good in the universe moving through me all the time, manifesting itself as my experience? When I can begin to shift that, my world breaks open, wide and free. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. And all instinctively feel this. So let's do a little practice here. Take a moment and just close your eyes. If you are experiencing any kind of trouble in your life, it doesn't even have to be big. Anything that's upsetting you right now, anything that you've experienced that you really didn't want to experience, anything that you're worried about, just kind of bring that to mind. Softly hold that in your consciousness. I'm going to repeat some spiritual truths, and one of those may resonate with you as the truth of that situation. And if it is, grab onto that. Hold that in your consciousness. You might even want to repeat it silently to yourself. I live in a world of abundance. I am eternally free. My body is pure health and vitality. There is a dynamic energy moving through me, creating everything that I need right here and right now. I am infinitely blessed and well loved. Just repeat any of those to you, to yourself in your mind. If I didn't hit on one, see if you can pick up the truth about that situation. Now take in a deep breath as you repeat that in your mind. And then just release it. knowing that just as your breath surrounds you, that spiritual truth envelops you in perfection and wholeness. I invite our spiritual practitioners to stand and surround the sanctuary, please, while we enter into our time of prayer. Again, spiritual mind treatment is our form of affirmative prayer. We recognize the presence of the One, all 88 names of it. We unify ourselves with that One in a way that is meaningful to us, in a way that we can feel it. And then we go to the law and express spiritual truths about the situation. We give thanks and we let it go. And so if you would, turn within. Taking a nice deep breath, let it out. And so I know that right here and right now, there is only one power, one presence, one divine creative source of all. That one shows up in, through, and as all creation, but is so much more than any one thing. I know that one as love, as power, as wisdom, as divine right action. And because I know there's only one, I know that I am one with it. That all that I am, all that I could ever be, is an incarnation of that one. Perfectly and beautifully made to be the living embodiment of spirit on earth. And because I know this is true for me, I know this is true for everyone. We are all that perfect manifestation of a loving creator that has brought us into this form for it to experience life through us. And so knowing this, resting in this truth, I speak my word. I know that right here and right now, each one of us is divinely linked to an intelligence that is forever unfolding itself in our experience. No matter what the condition is, there is a power for good in the universe, and it is moving through us right here and right now. There is a power for good in the universe that is greater than we are. We can use it, and it uses us to create the experiences that we have in life. And so I know that if my experience is not something I want, I can find the spiritual truth to that. And I know that if I can't find it for myself right now, we have a bunch of practitioners here who can find it for me. Because the truth is always available. It is always present in each one of us. It is always showing up through us as we believe. And how good it is to know this, how good it is to feel it and to see it in action right here and right now. And I just simply release this word into that creative law, that power for good in the universe that is always saying yes for the highest and best of all creation. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.